Imagine a room where no minutes are taken and no cameras are allowed, where leaders, bankers, and strangers meet behind closed doors. Today, we follow the traces and ask who really pulls the strings. On this table, maps become plans and notes become signals. Across centuries, messages carry power faster than armies. That speed is the secret of influence. History remembers moments when a single message moved markets. The more quickly information flowed, the more advantage gathered on one side of the ledger. While crowds panic, the invisible network often stays calm. That contrast, public chaos and private certainty, repeats through history. Power in finance didn't start with modern banks. Merchant fraternities and early lenders built networks that tied trade to credit, the building blocks of today's flows. Groups like early monastic orders and merchant guilds managed risk and credit across borders, early labs for institutional finance. Information traveled with merchants who paid, who defaulted, who profited. That early edge, knowing before others, is the ancestor of modern insider advantage. Power centralized as families and houses grew banks, built credit networks, and extended loans to states. Their influence scaled with capital. Financiers didn't just fund merchants. They financed infrastructure, railroads, telegraphs, ports, investments that shaped the modern economy. Each leap in communication, from telegraph to cable to fiber, multiplied the power of those who control information. As capital concentrated, family houses gave way to institutions, banks, investment houses, and later global forums where elites convene. Those early systems taught a lesson. Networks and information shape markets. Next, we look at how influence operates today. The mechanisms. Influence isn't mystical, it's mechanical. Let's break down the common levers: information, networking, philanthropy, lobbying, and market action. Networking creates trust and opportunity. Behind closed doors, introductions become deals, and deals become influence. Early access to information let some act before markets react. That time gap is effectively money and power. Lobbying translates private preferences into public rules. When the rules change, winners and losers are often predetermined. Donations fund research that shapes public debate. Ideas backed by money can become the policies governments adopt. Large trades, leverage, and liquidity gaps can move markets instantly. It's not always conspiratorial. Sometimes it's system dynamics amplified. Financiers have long funded states in war and peace. Those financial ties create channels through which influence flows. Controlling the narrative matters. Funding, access, and advertising can shift what people believe. A subtle yet powerful lever. Legal frameworks are the rule book. Who shapes those rules through counsel or influence shapes the market landscape. Sometimes one strategic move triggers cascades, margin calls, forced sales, contagion. Mechanisms create predictable ripples. Opacity protects strategies. Where records are missing, suspicion grows, whether justified or not. Those levers operate in private and public forms. Next, the modern gatherings where the elite meet and what that means. Today's gatekeepers gather in hotels and private islands, venues that are secure, exclusive, and far from the press. Groups like Bilderberg and Davos are forums for discussion. Business leaders, officials, and thinkers converge, and the public wonders why. Conversations at such meetings can seed ideas that later surface in policy papers and corporate strategy. Influence works through ideas as much as money. The tension is clear. Private influence can accelerate decisions, but without public minutes, accountability can be limited. Sometimes ideas discussed privately later reappear as policy, and markets react when the expected rules change. Large donors fund institutions that train leaders and shape curricula, a subtle, long-term channel of influence. Boardrooms are where strategy meets capital. Directors, often networked across institutions, coordinate actions that reverberate in markets. Reputation, shaped by media and social platforms, can be cultivated. Influence operates by shaping both policy and public perception. In the digital age, algorithms amplify moves. Data and speed favor those with resources and access. A new dimension of influence. Summits, boards, donors, and data. Together, they form a modern architecture of influence. Next, concrete cases that show how it can play out. Some names appear in many stories about finance and secrecy. We look at how prominent banking houses built networks and how myths formed around them. Anecdotes endure because they're dramatic, but myth and fact diverge. We highlight stories while noting where evidence is thin. Modern episodes show fast feedback loops, a policy hint, a trade, a price move. The links can be direct or coincidental. Hard evidence comes from documents, minutes, cables, memos. Where these exist, claims are verifiable. Where they don't, questions remain. Eyewitness accounts and expert analysis help fill gaps, but recollections can be partial. Cross-checking sources is essential. Myths can be persuasive. Evidence requires digging. Let's weigh the implications for ordinary people. When policy favors capital over labor, wealth concentrates. Influence can thus reinforce inequality, a political as well as economic effect. Concentrated actions can create systemic risk, amplifying shocks that hurt ordinary savers and small investors. When private power shapes public policy with little transparency, democratic accountability is weakened, a long-term cost. Transparency, stronger disclosure rules, and public scrutiny can rebalance the scales. Solutions exist, but they require will. Open registries, conflict of interest rules, and investigative journalism help expose hidden ties and inform voters. Civic engagement and independent media force accountability. Awareness is the first step toward change. So, are there unseen architects? Partly, influence exists, but it's rarely omnipotent. The architecture of finance is complex, built from institutions, ideas, and human choices. If you want more deep dives into how money shapes the world, subscribe and click the bell. Follow my channel for the evidence, sources, and next episodes.